brothers and sisters in faith, open the ears of your hearts wide, for humanity is approaching an unprecedented upheaval. And these words do not come to distract or frighten, but because heaven has decided to speak urgently to all who still keep faith alive within their souls. What you will hear now is not just another discourse lost in the noise of the world, but a direct call from on high, a revelation that transcends borders, languages, and cultures, destined not only for one people or a specific nation, but for all those who still carry hope, light, and a sincere desire to remain in God. For the times that have already begun and those to come will divide human history into before and after, and this message is not born of fear, but of the profound love of a mother who does not wish to punish, but to awaken, restore, and prepare her children, offering a chance to look inward, correct their path, turn their eyes to the Father, and allow true conversion to flourish in their spirit. This message was entrusted to Mirjana in Medjugorje, a place marked by the supernatural, where the Virgin Mary manifested herself with sweetness and firmness. To speak of these latter times, making it clear that there is still time to open your heart, allow the light to enter, and walk with faith even when darkness thickens. So unite now in spirit, place your intention in prayer, walk with this community that prays together, remains united and sustains itself in hope. And if something within you recognizes the truth of these words, remain until the end, because what will be revealed can transform your life if you are willing to listen with your soul. And so we enter into the experience lived in Medjugorje, where silence rested like a sacred veil until an unknown light began to descend. Not like the sun or human creations, but a pure clarity, without shadows, that enveloped everything without hurting the eyes. A light that did not rise from the earth, but descended from heaven. And within this light the very air seemed to bend, announcing a holy presence. When Mirjana contemplated the impossible, the Virgin Mary suspended in radiance, serene, majestically beautiful, with a beauty that does not belong to this world. Her face she radiated peace, but not an empty peace. It was a peace permeated by love and profound sorrow. In her eyes there was maternal tenderness and at the same time the silent weight of the suffering of so many lost souls. And when her voice was heard, it was not a shout or imposition, but a firm whisper that pierced the spirit with celestial authority. Words that did not spring from human reason, but like a gentle fire that warms, purifies, and awakens without destroying. Each phrase engraved itself on the heart like an ancient truth returning to life. There was no spectacle, only the living reality of the sacred that came to warn and console. And as her cloak seemed to envelop everything in golden light, it became clear that this message was not just for one person, but for all humanity. An urgent call to awaken before time runs out. The cry of a mother who could no longer remain silent in the face of the world's course. She brought with her a decisive message, not easy promises or comfortable illusions, but a necessary truth, spoken without embellishment and without fear. And as her light intensified, as if the invisible were to reveal itself to the visible, she spoke of the dark times that were approaching and of the nation that would first feel the impact of what was to come. Her eyes remained full of compassion, but her voice became more solemn, carrying the weight of what was already determined. Without anger and without a desire for punishment, only the firmness of a truth that could no longer be postponed. The United States would be the first nation to feel the tremor, a divided, proud, and wounded country that would face a profound process of disintegration. Conflicts born at the highest levels of power would spread like a shadow over the people, separating families, friendships, and communities. The economy sustained by human promises would begin to crumble like sand carried by the wind. Scarcity, uncertainty, and fear would seize hearts once accustomed to abundance, and the nation that seemed invincible would be thrown into a struggle for survival, not only material but spiritual. And yet this warning is not limited to a single country, for all this would only be the beginning of a trial that would reach the entire world. And my beloved children, I speak to your hearts, with tenderness and truth, not to instill fear, but to awaken awareness. I bring this warning to prepare you, because a loving mother does not remain silent when she sees her children walking distracted amidst danger. The world, my children, is becoming increasingly chaotic, enveloped in confusion, destruction, and hardening of hearts. It is not only what the eyes see, but what the souls feel and can no longer explain. Many have become accustomed to the noise of chaos, to the recurring violence, to the lack of love. The world grows silently. Few realize that the greatest destruction does not begin in visible wars, but within the human heart, when faith is abandoned, when good is relativized, and when God ceases to be the center of life. That is why I call you, my children, not to flee the world, but to remain in it with a firm, enlightened, and vigilant heart. Understand, my children, this time demands inner preparation. It is not just about protecting yourselves from what happens outside, but about strengthening what dwells within you. A heart strengthened by faith does not allow itself to be dominated by hatred, does not get lost in despair, and does not bow before evil. When the world cries out in confusion, you are called to inner silence. When many choose violence, you are called to meekness. When hope seems to disappear, you are called to sustain it. I see many tired, wounded, disoriented, and that is why I ask you, do not allow the chaos of the world to steal the peace that God wishes to pour upon you. Guard your homes, your thoughts, and your attitudes. Be mindful of what you nourish in your hearts, for what enters the soul shapes the path you follow. This warning is a gesture of love. There is still time to return to the essentials, to rebuild faith, to live with more truth, humility, and spiritual responsibility. Do not harden your hearts in the face of these signs. Walk with firmness, sustained by trust in God, and do not allow darkness to extinguish the light entrusted to you. I bring this warning not as a burden, but as light. A light that wishes to touch your hearts before the weariness of the world makes you believe that all is lost. It is not, my children. There is still a way, there is still time, there is still a choice. The world becomes increasingly chaotic because many have strayed from the truth that sustains the soul. The destruction you see outside is a reflection of the inner disorder that grows silently. Wounded hearts wound other hearts. Empty souls seek to fill themselves with fleeting illusions. Meanwhile, true love is being sidelined, as if it were too fragile for these times. But I tell you, it is precisely now that it is most needed. Understand, my children, that I am not speaking only of great events or visible signs. I am speaking of the coldness that settles into relationships, the indifference to the suffering of others, the haste that prevents listening, the pride that closes doors where love could enter. Chaos is not born in a single day. It is built when small choices distance the heart from what is just good and true. I see many of you trying to remain standing amidst inner storms. I see hidden tears, unconfessed fears, silent battles that few perceive. Therefore, I ask you, do not neglect your inner life. A careless heart becomes fragile in the face of trials. A heart strengthened by faith, humility, and the sincere pursuit of good remains firm, even when everything around seems to crumble. My children, do not allow the noise of the world to silence the voice of God within you. The excess of distractions has distanced many from what is essential. Learn to withdraw, to reflect on your choices, to observe what has guided your steps. What you cultivate in your hearts sooner or later manifests itself in your attitudes. Therefore, take care of what you think, what you desire, and what you allow into your soul. This time calls for vigilance, but also for gentleness. Do not let yourselves be dominated by fear, for fear paralyzes and weakens. Be firm, but not hardened. Attentive, but not desperate. True strength is born from trust in God and fidelity to good, even when it seems small in the face of the greatness of chaos. To prepare yourselves, my children, does not mean living in constant restlessness, but living with awareness. It means choosing good when evil becomes commonplace. It means remaining upright when many choose easy paths. It means loving when the world teaches to hurt. Every gesture of kindness, every just choice, every act of faith becomes a seed of light in the midst of darkness. Do not forget your homes. They are refuges that need to be guarded with zeal, peace, and truth. Where there is sincere dialogue, respect, and love, the chaos of the world finds less space to enter. Begin with what is within your reach, your attitudes, your words, your examples. The transformation you wish to see in the world begins in the heart of each one of you. Remain attentive to the signs, but above all, remain faithful. Do not stray from that which sustains the soul when trials intensify. Walk with hope, even when the path seems narrow. A mother does not abandon her children, and God never abandons those who seek Him sincerely. Receive this warning as a call to spiritual awakening, to the maturity of faith, and to the responsibility of love. The world may be shrouded in confusion, but a heart steadfast in God becomes a dwelling place of peace. And where there is true peace, chaos does not have the last word. My beloved children, come to me, draw near with a sincere and humble heart. A mother recognizes when her children are tired, wounded, and confused. I see how many of you have walked paths that wound the soul, entangled in sins, hasty choices, and attitudes that distance you from peace. I do not say this to accuse, but to awaken. There is still time to return. There is still time to strengthen the faith that many have allowed to weaken. How many of us, my children, have lived days marked by inner destruction? Destruction that begins when love is replaced by pride, when truth is exchanged for convenience, when the heart closes to God and opens to everything that weakens it. Sin does not always present itself clearly. Often it disguises itself as habit, as normality, as something small. But little by little it steals the light of the soul and brings confusion to the spirit. That is why I call you. Come to me. Do not flee from the correction that saves, nor from the truth that liberates. Strengthen your faith, for without it the heart becomes vulnerable and easily dominated by the shadows of this world. Faith is not just words, my children. It is a daily decision, a conscious choice to live according to what builds up, even when it is difficult. The world has become a field of invisible battles. Many homes are being affected by discord, lack of dialogue, loss of respect and hope. Do not allow evil to find space in your homes. Guard your homes with spiritual vigilance, with acts of love, with responsibility and fidelity to good. Call upon Saint Michael the Archangel for the protection of your home. He is a defender against evil, a guardian in spiritual battle, a sentinel sent by God to protect those who seek to remain in the light. Where Saint Michael is invoked with faith and trust, evil loses strength, confusion dissipates, and truth finds a way to remain. My children, do not neglect what enters your homes. Words, thoughts, habits, and influences. All of this shapes the spiritual environment of your home. A vigilant heart protects not only itself, but also those it loves. Begin with yourselves, for a transformed heart becomes a source of transformation for the whole family. Come to me when you feel weak. Come to me when the weight of guilt seems too great. A mother does not reject a repentant child, does not turn her face away from sincere pain. My desire is to lead you back to the light, to inner order, to the peace that springs from a life aligned with God. Strengthen your faith before the world tries to snatch it from you. Be firm, vigilant, and persevering. Even amidst the destruction and sin that spread, those who choose God will never walk alone. I accompany you, protect you, and guide you, so that evil may not have dominion over your homes or your hearts. Approach me as children who recognize their weaknesses and wish to begin again. A mother never tires of calling, never tires of waiting, never tires of extending her hands. I see how many of you carry the weight of wrong choices, of repeated sins, of paths that promised joy but delivered emptiness and pain. And yet, my heart remains open, because true love never gives up. Strengthen your faith, my children, for many have lived only for the immediate, forgetting the soul. Faith weakens when God ceases to be a priority, when inner silence is replaced by the constant noise of the world, when the heart becomes accustomed to error and begins to call it normal. This is how destruction sets in, not all at once, but little by little, until the soul no longer recognizes the path of peace. How many of us, my children, have walked wounded inside, trying to fill voids with that which does not satisfy? Sin promises relief, but delivers slavery. Promises freedom, but imprisons. And many only realize this when they are already tired, confused, and far from the light. Therefore, I call upon you now, before the darkness becomes even heavier. Return to the essential, return to the truth that heals. Do not be ashamed to acknowledge your faults. Humility is the first step to restoration. A heart that recognizes its fragility becomes stronger than one that insists on walking alone. God does not expect perfection, but sincerity. He does not reject those who wish to change, but sustains those who decide to begin again. Look upon your homes, my children. Many are being affected by silent divisions, by harsh words, by a lack of dialogue, and by influences that distance the presence of God. A spiritually unprotected home becomes vulnerable to the shadows of this world. Therefore, I tell you, be vigilant. Protect your homes not only with outward gestures, but with inner choices that promote peace, respect, and truth. Call upon Saint Michael the Archangel for the protection of your home. He was placed by God as a defender in the battle against evil, as a guardian of those who wish to remain in the light. Where there is faith and trust, his presence strengthens, dispels confusion, and restores spiritual order. Do not ignore the invisible battles, for they are real and demand firmness of spirit. My children, be careful what you allow into your lives. Words, images, habits, and thoughts shape the heart and define the path. What seems small today can become a great wound tomorrow. Be prudent not out of fear, but out of love for your own soul. Vigilance is an act of love, not of rigidity. Come to me when you feel the weight of guilt, when weariness is great, when hope seems distant. I lead you not to condemn you, but to draw you closer to God. My desire is to see you free, whole, and at peace. A strengthened faith transforms the heart, restores the home, and illuminates even the darkest paths. Do not postpone change, my children. The world tries to normalize sin and trivialize destruction, but you are called to live differently. Be light where there is darkness. Be gentle where there is violence. Be firm where there is confusion. Every choice made with faith weakens evil and strengthens good. Remain attentive, persevering, and confident. Even in the midst of struggles, you are not alone. A mother walks with you, intercedes for you, and calls to you without ceasing. Strengthen your faith, protect your homes, and guard your hearts, so that destruction finds no space where God's love desires to dwell. Many transformations that today present themselves as progress hide traps for the soul. That is why I speak to you with clarity and love, so that you do not walk distracted in times that demand discernment and vigilance. The enemy's plan, my children, has always been the same: to deceive and destroy. He does not present himself in an obvious way, but subtly. He confuses good with evil, weakens the truth, normalizes sin, and makes seem small that which deeply wounds the soul. Many are led astray not by conscious malice, but by illusion, by a lack of spiritual attention, by the absence of a living and firm faith. I see how many hearts are being seduced by empty promises, by easy paths, by ideas that distance man from God and place him at the center of everything. When pride grows, humility disappears. When truth is relativized, confusion sets in. When God is left aside, emptiness takes its place. Thus, little by little, the enemy finds space to act. My children, do not ignore the signs. The world changes rapidly, but the truth remains. That which edifies the soul does not lose value with time. Love, faith, justice, and fidelity do not become outdated. These are the virtues that protect you from deception and keep you firm when everything around you seems unstable. The enemy desires to divide families, homes, hearts. He desires to weaken faith, generate discouragement, spread fear and hopelessness. He knows that a confused heart is easier to lead astray. Therefore, I ask you, be careful from your inner life. A heart that seeks God sincerely is not easily deceived. Remain attentive to the choices you make daily. Deception rarely begins big. It infiltrates through small concessions, constant justifications, and the gradual distancing from what is good and true. Be vigilant not out of fear, but out of love for your soul and those who walk with you. I call you, my children, to remain firm in faith amidst the changes of the world. Do not conform to that which distances you from God. Do not accept as normal that which destroys human dignity and wounds the heart. Have the courage to live according to the truth, even when it demands renunciation and perseverance. A mother warns because she loves. I do not wish to see you deceived or lost. I wish to see you conscious, strengthened, and free. When you walk in the light, deception loses its power. When you choose the truth, destruction does not prevail. My beloved children, listen attentively and let these words descend to the deepest part of your hearts. The world is constantly changing, and many feel lost, confused, and insecure in the face of how quickly everything transforms. Values are exchanged, truths are questioned. What was once considered wrong is now presented as normal. I tell you, my children, not all change leads to life, and not everything that presents itself as new comes from the light. The enemy's plan has always been deception. He acts not only through force, but through confusion. He mixes truth with lies, weakens conscience, lulls the soul to sleep, and causes many to walk without realizing they are drifting away from God. His desire is to destroy, but before that he deceives, seduces, and misleads, so that the fall happens silently. My children, understand, deception rarely presents itself clearly. It comes disguised as freedom without responsibility, pleasure without limits, choices without consequences. Few realize that, by straying from the truth, they lose peace, inner clarity, and the meaning of life. Thus, the heart becomes vulnerable, and destruction finds room to grow. I see many tired, disoriented, living in constant restlessness. This happens because the human heart was not made to live far from God. When he is removed from the center, something always falls out of place. The enemy knows this and works to turn hearts away from faith, humility, and truth. For a heart distant from God becomes more easily led astray. Understand, my children, that not everything the world applauds edifies the soul. Not everything accepted by the majority leads to the light. Therefore, I ask you for discernment. Do not blindly follow the currents of this time. Question what is presented to you. Observe the fruits. Analyze whether it brings you closer to or further away from love, peace, and truth. What comes from God generates inner life. What comes from the enemy generates confusion and emptiness. The enemy desires to divide families, friendships, communities, hearts. He sows discord, pride, intolerance, and hatred. Where there was once dialogue, he plants silence. Where there was unity, he generates separation. All this weakens the human being and opens space for spiritual destruction. Therefore, I tell you, protect your homes with attitudes of love, patience, and truth. My children, take care of what nourishes your mind and your heart. What you see, hear, and allow into your life shapes your choices. A heart that is spiritually malnourished becomes confused and fragile. A heart that seeks the light remains firm even in times of darkness. Daily vigilance is necessary, not as a burden, but as care for what is precious, your soul. Do not let yourselves be led by fear, for fear is also an instrument of deception. The enemy desires to paralyze, generate despair, and take away hope. But I tell you, a heart that remains attentive and faithful will not be destroyed. Even amidst the changes of the world, God continues to be the firm rock upon which your life can be sustained. This time demands spiritual maturity. It is not enough to simply believe. It is necessary to live what one believes. It is necessary to align words, choices, and attitudes. Many say they have faith, but live as if God were distant. This weakens the soul and opens breaches for deception. Be consistent, my children, for consistency protects and strengthens. A mother speaks because she loves. I warn you not to be caught off guard, not to walk distracted while deception spreads. Remain vigilant, firm, and aware. The world changes, but the truth does not change. True love does not change. The light does not change. Guard your hearts, strengthen your faith, and choose daily what edifies. When the enemy tries to deceive, the truth sustains you. When he tries to destroy, God's love protects you. And he who remains in the light, even in a constantly changing world, will never be overcome by deception. The enemy acts in silence, my children. He sows doubts where there was once certainty, relativizes the truth, weakens values, and causes many to fail to discern what edifies and what destroys. When the heart ceases to watch, deception finds space. Therefore, I ask you to pay attention to small choices, to repeated thoughts, to attitudes that seem harmless, but that little by little distance the soul from God. Do not allow sin to become a habit, nor spiritual coldness to be seen as something normal. The estrangement from God doesn't happen suddenly. It begins when prayer is neglected, when faith is treated as something secondary, when the heart closes itself to correction and truth. This is how inner destruction takes hold, even when outwardly everything seems fine. My children, strengthen yourselves spiritually. A strengthened heart is not easily deceived. A heart sustained by faith remains firm even when the whole world seems to be moving in another direction. Do not be afraid to be different, to swim against the current, to choose good when it seems most difficult. Fidelity to God always demands courage, but it also brings peace. Pray the Holy Rosary, my children. It is a powerful spiritual weapon, a shield against deception, a path to strengthening faith. When you pray the Rosary, your thoughts are ordered, your hearts are quieted, and your souls draw closer to God. The Rosary helps you to remain vigilant, not to be deceived, to persevere in the confusions of this world, and to keep the light burning even in times of darkness. Do not pray it out of habit, but with awareness and devotion. May each mystery lead you to reflection, conversion, and a sincere desire for inner change. Where the Rosary is prayed with faith, evil finds less room to act, homes are strengthened, and hearts become more resistant to temptation and deception. Protect your homes, my children. The world may be in constant turmoil, but your home should be a place of peace, respect, and the presence of God. Begin with yourselves, with how you speak, how you listen, how you forgive, and how you love. Small actions done with faith transform the environment and ward off spiritual disorder.